Continue here now. Let's take you back to our top story. Minister of Women in the Presidency, Thubelihle Dlamini, has responded to allegations on banning an eNCA journalist and cameraman during the 16 days of activism against women and children, the abuse, that is, which was held in Melmoth, KwaZulu-Natal. I'm joined now by Sanef chairperson Mahlatse Mahlase, who joins us via Skype. Mahlatse, good morning to you. The minister seems to be denying these allegations. On the other hand, our journalist is very clear about how he was treated, very, very clear in his explanation of what happened here. I want to start here, Mahlatse. Do you believe that the presidency should actually be responding here? I think partly because that ministry now is housed within that particular department of the state.
I think, Xoli, what should happen now is that we should have a process of trying to establish what exactly happened underway, but I don't think it should be done by the ministry itself because they are already a party that has been accused of banning this journalist. I think that while we welcome the decision by Minister Thubelihle Vilane to say that she has started a process to inquire what actually happened because the journalist from eNCA puts her directly as the person who instituted this ban, I think for the safeguard of the process of establishing the facts, it should be done perhaps by another ministry or perhaps by the office of the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, because if indeed what happened was an instruction to ban the journalist from eNCA, it is quite an abuse of power by the minister or the office of the minister. So I think to actually establish the true facts, this inquiry should be done by somebody else and not the ministry itself.
Mahlatse, we're coming out of a week, a terrible week for journalists where they were named by Julius Malema and his supporters outside the state capture inquiry. People worried that this actually invites attacks, as in literal attacks against journalists, violence, I should say. Now, this particular incident by the Minister of Women in the Presidency, Thubelihle Dlamini, what actually is going on here, Mahlatse? Should we be worried that these attacks on journalists are going to, or are becoming more and more visible, but also increasing?
We are very, very worried, and all of South Africa needs to be very worried. And we can just look back to what happened ahead of the 2016 elections, Crowley. That's when we saw those heightened attacks on reporters. And we have experience. We know that when we are going towards an election, the reporters tend to be the targets by either politicians or even community members when they actually protest. So we have to be exceptionally worried. What worries us even more is when politicians themselves are seen to be the ones making remarks that could be seen as inviting others to also attack the journalists. I mean, let's look at what happened after Julius Malema basically spoke outside of the Zondo Commission. Yes, he said that he named specific journalists that he accused of being the defending Ramaphosa group, but then went further and said that the supporters must deal with them decisively, even though he later qualified it to say he's not meaning physical attack, but intellectually. We have seen that the consequence of those comments were that immediately as he said those words, one of the reporters was in the crowd covering the story and was verbally attacked by and threatened by EFF supporters. We have since seen another editor who was accosted while doing their shopping. So nothing to do with work in their personal lives. They were identified as the reporter identified by Julius Malema and attacked. And then also we've seen a heightened number of tweets against reporters, threatening and intimidating them. And all of these have had quite a chilling effect on newsrooms. I mean, we had a council meeting this weekend and editors were telling us that younger reporters are now feeling threatened and don't want to cover or are not sure about critically covering the EFF, for example. So we are appealing to politicians to actually act with care, to actually be the first line of defense for reporters because their work is defended and protected by the Constitution. But by no means are we saying that they are not allowed to criticize reporters, but we are saying that they have to do so within the rules of engagement, but that still allows for reporters to be safe.
Just as a last question and very briefly, please. How should journalists, particularly journalists who are in the field, how should they react when confronted with such a situation where you are either accosted or facing a situation of verbal insults? How do you behave? How should you conduct yourself in that situation?
You know, our first advice would be for the reporters to immediately leave. No story is worth your life. That has been from all the newsrooms that I've worked in, this is what I've preached. No story is worth your life. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling threatened, the first thing that you need to do is actually leave. And I think that is what editors should be telling their reporters, because while they're out there, you can't immediately ensure their safety. And it is up to them to also see and feel when they feel that they are not protected, they should actually leave. But on our part, we are hopefully going to engage with the leadership of the EFF to put across all of these concerns and hopefully start hearing the EFF leadership speak differently in terms of their approach to how they relate to reporters.